All right, gang, here I sit with the Chinese MS462 carburetor. I have already done some modifications to it. Here sits the high jet, all right? But let me see if I can show you exactly what's going on. So there's the divider that I was talking about. Not all X-Torque or stratified saws have this divider in the carburetor, but some of them do. And what it does is, down there, that hole, that's where your high jet goes. And it sprays the mist of fuel into the air as it flows through. But then up here, that sees no fuel. There you can see the cutouts there of the throttle butterflies. Boom, there. And then on the back side, there. So they fit in there perfectly so that the two sources of air, the upper and the lower, never actually mix. So, essentially, this carburetor, while it looks like it's this big, it's really only that big with fuel charge, right? This portion right here is the strato portion where we use fresh air to clean out and push the exhaust gases out the exhaust. Now, this right here is the intake, and that's the separation that you're seeing right there, right? On the bottom side, that's where, with all those little dimples, see those? All of those little dimples are to get it to mix and flow. It's actually for laminar flow. The little voids and divots where there isn't material hold air so that it makes your fuel air mixture flow faster. Anyways, you don't see that up top because we don't give a shit, because it's just nothing but fresh air up top. So, fuel air mixture on the bottom, straight air up top. And that straight air is what we're using in a stratified or an X-Torque saw. We're using that straight air to shove the exhaust gases out of the combustion chamber and out the exhaust. It's pretty great technology. It's used to, we did exactly that with fuel and air mixture. Right? So now our saws can be just as powerful, even more so, right? And we're less detrimental to the environment. We're polluting less. So it's actually a fantastic design. But what I'm doing here is I'm trying to get this carburetor to work on a non-stratified saw. This is a straight old school open port cylinder. And I'm trying to get this carburetor to work on that. So since this carb was actually designed to actually only fuel that much air, I have to get it to introduce more fuel into the air so that I can do all of that. Now this divider, I am going to cut it out, but we're just talking about how it works at this point. All right, so fuel gets pumped. This side right here is your actual fuel pump. This right here is your diaphragm that the impulse moves up and down. All right, but the actual pumping action is taking place on this side. And we pump fuel into here through that screen, and as we need it, all right, this will open up and fill this chamber with fuel. Whenever we fill this chamber with fuel, it then goes essentially in two different directions. One direction, that's a band, is I think through here, right there. But it could actually be going through there. But either way, it is to feed fuel out that little hole right there. That right there is your low jet, right? You are controlling the low with reaching up in here and controlling one of these jets. All right, this is Chinese carburetor. This is the actual Stihl carburetor. But the longer jet is your low side jet. So it would be this one right here. That, as we turn this, we close off the fuel to that little hole right there, right? The further we turn this in, the more we shut off fuel flow to that hole. The more we open it up, the more fuel flows freely. Okay, so that's your low side. The high side is the shorter jet, and it goes up in here, right? And there is a hole. Let me see if I can show you with the flashlight. See that? We're seeing two holes. The one on the far left is actually inside that barrel. The one on the top is actually filling up a small chamber, right? So this one here on top, when this fills up with fuel, flows through that hole, and it comes out that hole at higher RPMs, and we control how much with this jet. This jet stoppers up that. Now, it doesn't actually directly stop that hole. What it does is it stops the chamber underneath that hole that leads to that hole down there. So what we had to do, first up here, we had to increase the flow into our high jet and thus into the flow of fuel and air. So this hole right here measured, actually no, I did this one first. This is your actual jet. Fuel flows into that hole and then is introduced into the cylinder out the tip of it. Flows in that hole and out that one. And that's how it gets into the airflow. All right. So I measured this hole, and the way that I measured the hole is pretty simple. I've got a whole bunch of little teeny tiny drill bits. So I got this whole kit. Look at all these little drill bits. Little teeny tiny things. And anyways, I saw the biggest drill bit that I could possibly put in here was this guy. I think that's the one. And it's 38 thousandths of an inch. The next biggest, the next size up that I have is this one right here, 42 thousandths of an inch. So we went up 4 thousandths of an inch. I know it doesn't sound like much, but you got to go in small stages. So I drilled out that hole. I drilled out the main hole that feeds the high jet chamber. And then I went up through here and I drilled out that hole. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put it all back together. Well, before I put it back together, I'm going to cut out that the middle divider right there. We're going to put it all back together and see if it works. And yep, that's it. We're going to go with that and just cross our fingers, see if it works. I fired it up and all this stuff, you know, and tuned it in as best I could. It still seems to be exactly the same, like I made no difference whatsoever. So let's see. All right, so what was happening there was I had this theory that whenever I got it so rich before and it was falling on its face, that what was happening was I took the jet so far out that I created an air leak in the high jet. And right there, I just confirmed it. I took it all the way out, and I was wah, 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 wah. And then I put it back in, wah, 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 wah. So I fixed the air leak, right? So that right there is literally as rich as I can make it run without it having an air leak. I guess we just drill it out further. This time, instead of going one drill size, go two. You know, because that made like no difference. I don't know. Okay, so what have we learned? All right. So what did I say? The holes were 38 thousandths of an inch. I took them to 42 thousandths of an inch. Clearly, I think I've got to go further than that. But I'll insert a picture right here. All right, this little hole that I'm looking at, I believe that is a governing hole. It is connected to the high jet circuitry, and I believe it's going to work just like the Echo chainsaws, the 590 and 620. That hole right there, whenever it hits a certain RPM, fuel flows through that, richening up your high circuit, which is probably why I'm not seeing any difference whatsoever, because that high jet keeps coming on. But it's still not enough to make it four-stroke. It's kind of four-stroke, and it sounds raspy, but it's not what it needs to be. So I think I need to open up that jet just a whole lot further. I don't know. So anyways, yeah, the original, whenever I thought that it was running out of fuel, it wasn't running out of fuel. I had just taken the high jet so far out that it created an air leak, and it was whoa, 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 whoa. And I messed with it, and it got it to keep going and everything. And I was like, hey, it's like it's running out of fuel. It wasn't running out of fuel. I just took the high jet out so far that it created an air leak right there. And once I put it back in, it sealed up the air leak. So I don't need it to pump more fuel. All I need is to get it to flow more fuel. And the only thing I can think of is just drill them damn jets out even further. I don't know. I thought about taking a different carburetor, right? So where is... Oh, well, here, who cares? I'll just grab this one. This is a 372 X-Torque carburetor, I believe. I thought about taking it out and seeing what the size of these jets were in accordance with my drill, and just going with that right there. It's not that I have decided against that or anything. I just haven't done that. So, anywho, yeah. Yeah, that's what's up. I think that there's a governing jet that is coming on and pretty much staying on, and that is why I haven't blown up the saw, and B, just can't see any change. So until I can get enough fuel coming out the regular jet to where that jet isn't opening up, or I close off that jet. That's what I probably need to do. Because, I mean, that carburetor is used to going through to having that much fuel flow. All right. Airflow to be fueled. And now it has double that. So I guess it just keep going.